For months, we've been hearing about a Ukrainian counteroffensive. The West has armed Ukraine. Its media channels have been excited about its supposedly awe-inspiring attack that is meant to roll back Russian forces. But where is this mysterious attack? It's all happening in Pakistan. Imran Khan was in jail and his supporters were on the streets. Then he got out of jail and government supporters were on the streets. The ruling parties are demanding the resignation of the Chief Justice. How do we make sense of all of this? Napoli was famous as the team of the immortal Diego Maradona. However, it never managed to live up to that legacy. This year has been different as the team has won the country's club championship. What is behind this inspiring comeback? This is Daily Debrief. I am your host Shreya and these are our stories for the day. It's been over 400 days since the Russia-Ukraine war began. For the past few months, the news has been full of reports of a Ukrainian counteroffensive. Now, President Zelensky says that it may have to be delayed, while some media reports go on to say that it has even started. We're going to try and make sense of this fog of war with Prabir Purkayastha. Welcome to the show, Prabir. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours. Can you tell us a little bit about the counteroffensive and the trajectory that has taken ever since the last day?
Well, last few days, we don't really know. Okay, there is the fog of war, and which means whatever each side says has to be tested with a little more time, so that we know actually this is what has happened and what one side is claiming is true. Now, Prigozhin, who's the head of Wagner, he has been making a lot of statements which have criticized the Russian army and its Russian army chiefs for not supporting him properly, the Wagner forces for supporting it properly, and lots of problems with the Russian army. Now, a lot of people have said this itself is creating a fog of war, and we shouldn't take that seriously. It's trying to fool the Ukrainian side to punch over here, and then that's something they can contain more easily. So, is that what has happened, or is it really a major advance by Ukraine in Bakhmut? We don't really know. But from what I look at, all the maps and other stuff, what it seems to be is that the major battle in Bakhmut has been over the buildings. It's not over, so the two sides of Bakhmut, there may be some fields over there and the battle is taking place over there. It's really the built up areas of the Bakhmut town where this battle has been waged. And over there, it does seem the Russian forces, Wagner included, are still advancing. So, whether this is a way of getting people out of Bakhmut, as some people have claimed, is it a real advance to the, into the city by Ukrainian forces? All this is, I would say, still not clear. So, I'm not going to say whether this advance has major military significance or not. We have to wait to see that. And we shouldn't rush into say, no, Russia is hunky-dory or Ukraine has major advances. Either way, I think it's too early to call that. The other issue, and I think that's important, is what is the overall picture of the offensive, that Ukraine, the counter-offensive as it is being called, and does Bakhmut represent a major part of that counter-offensive, or is there going to be a counter-offensive in which Bakhmut is only one small part, is something we have yet to see.
Also, what do you think about the counter-offensive at this point of time?
Well, the counter-offensive is one of the great mysteries. It started with Teixeira revelations that, Ukraine doesn't have the kind of forces required, the armaments required, the tanks, artillery, shells, in order to take on the Russians. That has also been something which has been questioned, that maybe these are all, again, deception. And actually, they are much better positioned than what this is saying. Therefore, there is an offensive building up. If you look at the larger picture, then you will see that the largest strategic interest that NATO has, and we have always called this a NATO versus Russia war being fought in Ukraine, of course, the NATO being clear that it would like to fight the Russians to the last Ukrainian. So, taking that into consideration, the larger NATO interest is really Crimea and the Sevastopol port. Because that is something that this is the only warm water port for Russia, and therefore its maritime forces, the Navy, for them it's of great strategic importance. Through Black Sea, They can go to Mediterranean and from Mediterranean to the Atlantic. So these are things of really strategic importance to the Russian naval forces and of course Russia in general. So I would say if there is a strategic attack today, then the major strategic attack of Ukraine, which should be of benefit to NATO as well, who are very much at the helm of affairs in Ukraine, that would take place towards Crimea, separating Crimea from, if you see the map, the Mariupol area, which is a part of Donbas region, coming towards Zaporizhia. That part of it is the most likely to be attacked. Where over there? Closer to Zaporizhia, closer to Donbas? I don't know. That's something which we have to read the actual events and say which way the strike is going to be. But if that happens, and if they succeed in pushing the Russians back in this or separating Crimea from Russia, that would be a major strategic advance and a major strategic defeat for Russia, strategic advance for Ukraine and the NATO forces. The second part of it is how much of the arms, ammunition, missiles does Ukraine really have? Do they have the ability to make that for offensive, take that offensive? Those are things we'll have to watch and see. Again, at the moment, who is fooling whom or who is fooling us is something which we don't know. So I think we have to wait for that. Yes, is it possible for Russian forces to collapse? Of course, we have already seen how they pulled back from Kharkov way back, how they pulled back from the Zaporizhia town, Kherson area, how much they did pull back. So yes, they have had reverses, they have pulled back in some of these areas which they had gone in. But at the same time, Ukraine has lost a huge amount of arms, ammunition, and of course, most importantly, the people. Everybody now is almost unanimous in agreeing that the Ukraine budget really runs on the NATO countries' support. Arms ammunition comes entirely from the NATO countries, and even they are running short of the arms ammunition for themselves. So how long this can continue, what is going to happen, is a question we have to ask both sides. And from what we have been saying from the beginning, it's not in the interest of people of Ukraine, Russia, Europe to continue this. There is a need for peace. Now, who will bell the cat? Who will take the initiative? Chinese have been trying. They're seeming to send a group of diplomats who will go and try and talk to Europeans as well as to Ukraine. Zelensky has not rejected it, unlike the Americans. So let us see how that shapes up. But I would say the battlefield has to settle down before this kind of negotiations can start. And we're looking not at something in which Ukraine would accept whatever Russia is saying, or Russia will accept whatever NATO and Ukraine is saying, but somewhere it can lead to a frozen conflict like, for instance, the Korean War led to. Both sides decided 30th parallel as a temporary ceasefire, but it became the de facto ceasefire for more than 50 years. So we could also see that scenario, not a settlement, but just a frozen conflict. We'll have to see how this pans out. It will depend on what course the war takes, but if the war doesn't resolve itself either way, then this is the most likely outcome. And therefore, at that point, a ceasefire being negotiated would be the first step towards peace.
Thank you so much for joining us, Prabir. Pakistan's political crisis continues to build into another week. On Monday, May 15, political parties from the current ruling coalition known as the Pakistan Democratic Movement launched a sit-in protest outside the Supreme Court to oppose the court's orders granting relief to former Prime Minister Imran Khan after his arrest last week. The coalition is now seeking the resignation of the Chief Justice over what it calls an engineered verdict. Meanwhile, the government has launched a crackdown against those involved in protests that immediately followed Khan's arrest on May 9. According to latest reports, the country's military top brass has resolved to try the rioters under army law and for attacking army as well as civilian institutions. We now go to Prashant, who has more details on this story. Thank you for joining us, Prashant. A lot's been happening in Pakistan. Can you take us through what all has happened? The latest is that the PDM protest has been called off, and now they're demanding the resignation of the Chief Justice. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's very, complicated times. In fact, one of the reasons being that there's been so much to and fro in the judicial process itself, in the courts itself, that it's a bit difficult to keep track. But let's summarize it very quickly. We know that last week, I believe on last Tuesday, Imran Khan was arrested from the premises of the Islamabad High Court in one particular graft case, a corruption case. He was in jail. A couple of days later, what happens is that the Supreme Court says that his arrest is illegal. Then, our lower courts give him bail in a number of these cases. In the meanwhile, huge protests break out from his supporters across the country, a lot of violence taking place. The death count is believed to be around anywhere between 20, which is the official counts, and around 70, which is what Imran Khan and his party, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, say 70 people have died, over 3,500 people injured. So, there was complete chaos in Pakistan for the past 1 week, and the government and the establishment were really taken aback, because it was not just random protests, but even seats of authority. Let's say the buildings associated with the army were attacked by the supporters of Imran Khan and the protesters, right? So the government really kind of was shaken, there's no doubt about it. And so they were equally been shaken by the fact that the judiciary seems to have taken a position which has basically taken the rug beneath their feet, so to speak. It is, while not exonerating Imran Khan, it has given a fair amount of leeway or relief to Imran Khan in terms of judicial proceedings. For instance, in the aftermath of Imran Khan's arrest, many more cases were placed on him. Right. And these cases had to do with a lot of the violence that took place during the protests, etc. And Imran Khan immediately approached the court saying that he wanted bail in all these cases, which was granted. So there is, in some senses, what the government's strategy to corner and say basically isolate Imran Khan has clearly not worked out. If their plan was that they would arrest him and somehow put him behind bars and then take him out as a political force, which seems to have really been the intention, that has absolutely not worked out. It has definitely backfired. So in this case, the government and the ruling political coalition, which is part of the government, the Pakistan Democratic Movement or Alliance or whatever you call it, seems to have sort of changed strategy and is also focusing now on the judiciary itself, trying to say that the judiciary is partial to Imran Khan. So that is the context for this demand for the resignation. The fact that the judiciary also has not gone along with the government's plan, so to speak, of basically isolating him. It is clearly held that this amount of these are usual procedures in many democracies, so to speak, where there's one case and then there are like 10 more cases placed, and then there's this chain of cases from which a person cannot escape, right? So that strategy by the government has been checked by the judiciary, which is why the government and ruling parties are basically taking a strong stand against judiciary right now.
Right, Prashant. And talking about judiciary, the tussle between PDM and judiciary has been going on for months over the topic of delayed elections in Punjab province, where all of this is taking place. So could you also talk about that?
Right. Once again, elaborating this, I think we should also go back to the roots of this political crisis. We know that Imran Khan was the Prime Minister until April 2022. He was deposed after a no confidence motion, and then this current coalition came to power. Now this current coalition comprises a lot of parties, in fact all the traditional political parties of Pakistan, including the two big political parties, right? And what Imran Khan has been able to do successfully in the past 1 year is to portray himself as this lone wolf who's this outsider, this rebel, gutsy figure who's fighting against the establishment, both the civilian establishment and the military establishment. So this has really sort of contributed to his popularity. And a lot now has boiled down to the elections. So Imran Khan believes that if the elections are held quickly, he's going to benefit even more. The government is trying, I believe, to sort of postpone the elections so that it can somehow, in some way or the other, isolate and, like I said, take Imran Khan out of the picture, which is why also these corruption cases are coming into play, because there are at least two big corruption cases that are there, and if the government, I think, is trying to sort of either keep him in detention or paint him as such a corrupt person that the people do not see him as an alternative, right, in the elections which come. So which is why the tussle has been going on between the judiciary and the judiciary has also got involved. Once again they have not bought into the government's arguments on what to do. So really a kind of complete crisis as far as Pakistan is concerned. At this point, it does look like Imran Khan has an advantage in the sense that he has managed to turn an arrest, what could have potentially ended up damaging his career into a moment of greater of mobilizing more support for him. And it is not going to help, for instance, the fact that the government has said that all those arrested during these last week's protests are going to be charged under anti-terrorism clauses. So again, that gives Imran Khan more mileage, right? Because he can claim further political persecution, a vendetta as well. And he's been also really milking it, so to speak. I think he believed he locked himself at some point and said that his life was under threat, etc., etc. So he's also really, politically using this moment to garner as much sympathy, garner as much focus as possible. And it is undeniable that at this point he has become the center of Pakistan's political life, so to speak. And that itself gives him a huge advantage, because the government time and again looks like it is out to victimize him. And this really plays out very badly. So I would say it's a moment of advantage, both at an institutional level and a political level for Imran Khan.
Thank you so much for joining us, Prashant. And finally, we talk about the Italian professional football club Napoli scoring a historic win this month with the Serie A football league. This is the first title in 33 years since legendary player Diego Maradona led them to championships in 1987 and 1990. The title win is significant not only for the club and its fans, but also for the city of Naples, as was evident in the widespread celebrations that followed the club's victory. Maurizio Coppola joins us now with more details on this story. Hi Maurizio, glad to have you with us on the show. First off, this is a historic win. Could you tell us from a political point of view as well as a sporting point of view, what is the significance of this win?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. This victory is very important on both levels, as you said. On a sporting point of view, I mean, it's the first time after 33 years that Naples wins the Italian championship. The first time they won in 1987, the second time in 1990, both of these times with Diego Armando Maradona, one of the greatest football player ever. So it was. This is a very important moment for Naples. The second thing, it's also that, like in the Italian history of football, like the geographical and political and social inequalities between North and South has always his correspondent in football. So till now, it was always like there were always the teams from Torino and Milan, like the industrial and financial centers of the Italian economy, which won, like Juventus Torino, AC Milan, Inter Milan. So it was, after a long period, also the first time that the South again won the Italian championship. So this is like on the sportical point of view, something important. From the political point of view, I think it connects. In Italy, you have still, as I said, like huge social inequalities. That is like above all among the line of north-south. So the meridionalism is a feeling that is very strong. So like also a kind of racism against the south, and it was really strong during this championship because Naples won a lot of games in the first half of the championship. So it was like pretty clear that Naples will win. So the north and above all the liberal and conservative newspapers and media outlets, they wanted to teach the Napolitan people how they should celebrate, because they said, you are barbarians, you do not know how to celebrate, so you have to take care to celebrate, also to show that you really that title you will win is something that is for you. So it was like this kind of racism was very strong. And then a second thing that is very important, it's like the team of Naples represents the south of the world. So I would say that the victory of Naples, it's not only just the victory of the southern part of Italy, but it's also for the southern part of the whole globe. We have players from Latin America, from Asia, from Africa, from Eastern Europe. So the team of Naples, as the whole society, represents already like that diversity that dominates Europe, but that the racists do not want to believe in and do not want to have as a reality. So this is one point. And the second point is also that from the global, from a north-south perspective, a lot of people from southern Italy migrated to the north of Italy, but also to the north of Europe. So in the decade 2010 to 2020, 600,000 young people from Italian south migrated to the northern part of the continent. So we saw that in the night when Naples won the championship, there were not only celebrations inside of of Naples, but in the whole Europe, but also in other parts of the whole continent, in Buenos Aires, in New York, in Melbourne, in LA, and so on and so on. So it is in a way also politically a redemption. It shows that we can, as a strong team, and this is also again something very on the sporting level, the team of Naples was a very strong team. It was a collective, a joint forces of individuals that built a collective, directed very well by the trainer Luciano Spalletti. This shows that like the redemption can be not only on the sport level, but also politically, socially, if we join forces, if we organize collectively.
Right, and we know that Italy has a long legacy of football. So could you also take us through the legacy of football in Italy and how has it been? What is the contemporary situation like, and what's the legacy today?
I would say that football history in Italy is very important from a working class point of view also. A lot of teams were built as working class teams. Like, for example, AC Milan is a very concrete case of a working class team. Also, other teams, of course, were built by the working class. It was like a moment of organizing of the working class. In the latest history, like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the football supporters, the so-called ultras, they represented what the political organizations and the working class represented in the whole society. So the football fans were a mirror also of the general social and political situation in Italy. So we had very politicized football supporters. We had even, for example, and I go back to the AC of Milan, there was the football supporter group, the red black brigade, red black because it is the color of the AC Milan, and of course it was like a kind of link also politically with the red brigade. So it was a working class, a communist football supporter a group, and this was very dominant. They were also part of the mass mobilizations in the 60s and 70s, and so on and so on. With the neoliberal turn in Italy, we have also this neoliberal turn inside of the football club. So like people like Silvio Berlusconi bought and took over the teams, like Silvio Berlusconi bought the AC of Milan. So there was like also a neoliberal restructuring of the football teams and of the supporter groups. He eliminated different leftist supporter groups that in the stadiums also criticized him during the football games. And this dismantling of the organized supporters is also like a mirror of the disorganized and the dismantling of the organizations of the working class during the 90s and the 2000s in Italy. And today, what we can see, the most of the clubs, they are bought like by big capital institutions all over the world, from China to Saudi Arabia, to the United States, and also the team of Naples was bought in 2004 by a bigger capitalist in an Italian one, and he also restructured the team in a capitalistic way. So we can say that today football teams are like perfect functioning capitalist enterprises, companies that are also oriented above all in producing profits. And this is also like what we see in the stadiums. There is like a depolitization of the football stadiums. The football supporters are not anymore also like part of the general social movement in our country. And this is, of course, something we have to acknowledge, and we have also to engage to rebuild politicization inside of the football supporters groups.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Maurizio. And that's all we have for today. For more such stories, keep watching peoplesdispatch.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.